But the funniest thing is, once I started my own company, I looked back, I was like, man, now I know why I was an independent contractor, because I never would have hired myself.
They were cutting the biker division, but the plan was to transition customs over to a ground.
They're just going to stop offering bike deliveries for $3.50 and turn them all into vehicle deliveries for $10, and no one's going to notice.
You guys had other ideas.
We had other ideas. Either you're a dinosaur or you're a bird, right? You know what I mean? Either you go extinct or you sprout feathers and start flying, right? Yeah. Those are your choices. We evolved from a employee model to an independent contractor model.
Sounds like recently happened. You lost a large customer. Share that story. How do you
So they're a
navigate
bank that was like very big on customer service, and that was their whole thing. Like they used to have ads where people would give testimonials about their great customer service. And, I left my passport on the banker's desk when I was picking up Deutschmarks on my way to Germany, and they brought me my passports in line for security at the airport. And I'm like, they didn't do that. I did that.
You're one of the rare breeds that still use bike messengers.
Right? Someone's got to be dumb enough to do it. Yeah. I think most people are smarter than me. We're like ninjas. Your package is there and then it's gone and it shows up on someone else's desk, and no one really ever thought about it. Now, ever since COVID, everyone knows about delivery because they were getting stuff delivered to their houses. And I think it's great that a big sort of opportunity for us is this increased visibility.
I'm your host, Jason Burns, and we'll be bringing you the stories from the front lines, everything from last mile to the first mile in the most dynamic industry in today's supply chain. If you like the content we're producing, the videos we're releasing, the stories we're telling you, give us a like, subscribe to our channels, give us some feedback on how we can improve your last to first journey. If there's one thing we know about last mile logistics, it can be the most challenging but critical component of any supply chain. But Drop-Off, they make it easy. I sold my business to Drop-Off a few years ago and had a first-hand experience to see why they're the leading provider of same-day delivery solutions in the healthcare, retail, and industrial sectors. National brands trust Drop-Off to deliver same-day solutions with transparency and timely deliveries to satisfy their needs. Rated as one of the best places to work by the Austin Statesman and a proud recipient of the Inc. 5000 fastest-growing companies in America. Drop-Off is transforming the $30 billion same-day delivery industry. Call 888-DROP-OFF or go to dropoff.com and let them serve your needs. Now back to Last to First. Welcome back to the Last to First podcast, where we bring you the latest and greatest insights from the last mile, final mile industry and how it's gone from last to first. Today, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Andrew Brady, who's a good friend of mine, fellow board member. He's the founder and also the COO of King Courier. He's got the Careful Courier shirt on today. We'll explain that and how that come about in a moment. But Andrew, thank you for being on the podcast. So excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's great to be on your show.
Yeah. So I didn't say in the intro, you are also a two-time president of the California Delivery Association.
I am the only
the only two-time president. You must have some mental issue
I run
somewhere.
Slowly. I was easy to catch.
And you're also on the CLDA board. We'll get to that here in a second as well. But let's start with how did you even get into this industry, right? So take me back to your story, your journey. How did you even get into the courier final mile space?
So back in 1983, I was a chef. All my friends were bike messengers, and they were having way more fun than I was. So I basically sort of got myself fired from chefing and picked up a bike. And because I'm such a genius, my first day of work in Boston, Massachusetts was the Monday following Thanksgiving. So basically kicking off the freezing rain season.
First day at the bike messenger.
First day as a bike messenger, I go, it's like pouring freezing slush falling from the sky. Got it. And that was pretty much my first 3 months working as a bike messenger.
So you mentioned you had some buddies that were in the space. What they tell you that made you say, that seems like a pretty cool thing to do?
Nothing, just that they were seeing them when they came home from work versus me when I came home from work. I was like, this is something I want to do.
So you got into the bike space. First day it's a storm, it's raining. What was that first day like? Like, walk me through. Do you remember any jobs you did? Would you end that day thinking like this is the best decision, worst decision I made?
No. I mean, it takes a little while to figure it out, but it came pretty easily. you know, I was younger and better shape back then. So riding the bike all
How
day.
old are you roughly at this time?
I'll be 60 this year. So.
Okay. So, but 83, so you're...
1983, I was 19.
Okay, so young man. Okay, all
All
right.
right, so I'm 19 years old. So I get a job as a bike messenger. I was an independent contractor, and, you know, I'm sure we'll get into like the whole independent contractor employee thing later. But the funniest thing is, once I started my own company, I looked back, I was like, man, now I know why I was an independent contractor, because I never would have hired myself. So I rode a single speed bike. It was like a 26-inch BMX kind of bike, like guys use for doing tricks and stuff on these days. And
Yeah.
I just had super high gears on it. It was like a 51 ring on the front and a 12 on the back. So that's like one pedal gives you 4 turns of the back wheel. So it goes pretty fast.
You can move.
Yeah. And so what I did was I just ran around the outside of Boston all day.
Okay.
And
Picking up
picking up and
letters, dropping off
Yeah.
small parcels.
You know, rolls of drawings or whatever, right?
Yep.
And a lot of photographs back then. There's a lot of modeling and stuff, right? And so the jobs on the outskirts pay more. So all my friends were like zipping downtown, and I'm just like coasting this big circle around the city all day. So I made some good money.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, you know, and that was sort of my thing. I fell into it, and it was good.
Okay, so you're 19, 20 years old,
Yeah.
bike messenger, having fun. To be family at this point, no family, just kind of just you, right? You doing your thing. How long do you stay in that track? How long were you a bike messenger? About 10 years ago, I was sitting at an industry conference, and I heard a speaker say the data will be just as important as the delivery. In today's fast-paced environment, where the last mile has become the most critical component of today's supply chain, customers and shippers now expect carriers to do way more than just make a successful delivery. The game has changed, and having actionable data is the key to winning business in today's fast-paced environment. That's why the team at Dispatch Science has been setting the pace on last-mile technology and dispatch software. Since 2018, Dispatch Science has reimagined traditional dispatching to solve the problems that stifle operations and reduce productivity. Need custom dispatch boards and multi-map views for your team by customer or by region? Challenged with turning a spreadsheet of stops into efficient and optimized routes? Or maybe you're looking to leverage API and EDI integrations to seamlessly integrate your customers across multiple platforms. Transform your operations using the integrated Dispatch Science platform. Reduce manual errors, streamline efficiency, and create smoother workflows and faster response times for your staff and your clients. It's a game changer, and their 3 pricing plans are listed right on their website. So if you're serious about taking your journey from last to first, visit www.dispatchscience.com or call 844-558-2011 and give them the discount code of L2F. That's right, L2F, and get 10% off your first month's invoice. Now back to last to first.
So I went back and forth between cooking and bike messengering for a few years till I was like, about 1989. And then that's when I moved out here.
Okay.
And it was funny, driving across the country, my girlfriend wanted to live in LA and I want to live in San Francisco. So depending on who was driving, we were sort of zigzagging across the country. I'd be heading north, she'd be heading south. It was pretty funny. And so we ended up in LA. We were there for like 6 months. We broke up and I moved to San Francisco.
Okay.
So I moved to San Francisco. I got $50 in my pocket.
Wow.
And I knew I had gone up the weekend before, and this girl's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to rent my garage out to someone for $50 a month. You can live in it. It's got its own bathroom and everything." So I was like, called her up. I'm like, "Hey, I want your garage." She's like, "Okay." So I moved into her garage with my only $50. I spent the next couple days. There's this thing in San Francisco called neighborhood cleanup, where you throw away all your big stuff.
Yeah.
And it just moves like 1 block every night. So I hooked into that. I found out where it was. And then I just went pulling bike frames for the next couple days, dragging them back to my garage.
Okay.
Finally built up a couple solid bikes that I knew I could work on.
Yeah.
And then got a job as a bike messenger in San Francisco. And,
So you stayed in the bike messenger business. You had to...
Yeah, because being a cook in San Francisco, I know how to cook really well. I cook really fancy, like Northern Italian Nouvelle cuisine. I had a great chef who trained me and everything. But if you don't have like a degree from CIA, you're fighting it out with the minimum wage guys, so and there's a lot of competition in California, right?
How much? Give me some ideas. So this is mid 80s, I'm guessing, something like that. Maybe
89,
89. Okay, so what does a bike messenger make? Like
$100 a day.
$100 a day. Okay.
That's what you do. That's like the good. And the funny thing is, like, once you get to $100 a day, you stop pedaling as fast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how much every job pays. You're like, yeah, okay, I hit my $100. Then you kind of.
So that's so when I first got into our family's business, we had some bikers, and it was always very hard to find these guys come 4:30 afternoon. So that's what happened. They check out.
Well, okay, so I didn't really have any money, right? So what I would do is at like 4:00 in the afternoon, what was it? Au Bon Pain. It was like a French bakery, right?
Okay.
And so at 4:00, all the bread went to day old price. So you could get like a baguette for $1. And back then they had St. Ides 40-ounce beers were also $1. Okay. Right? So that was like my $2 for the whole day. And it's just, pure carbs. But at like 4:00 in the afternoon, you eat half a loaf of bread, chug half of 40, throw the rest in your bag, and you're good for your like court rushes at the very, the rushes to the court. And you're all powered up and good to go.
You got the energy boost.
Yeah. And then, and then you have the rest after work.
Got it. All right, so let's walk through this journey a little further. So at some point you transition from being a bike messenger to, do you get into management at the company at the time? How do you get into up in the industry?
First I worked at Silver Bullet, and that was the first place I applied because the girl who I rented the garage from was a driver at Silver Bullet. Okay. She's like, I think we're hiring. So I went down there. I walk in the door, and I know the dispatcher from Boston, this guy, Stefan. So we were buddies back in Boston. He's like, bro, man, I'll throw you on the road right now, Yeah. And so I worked there for a couple of months, and then, so I worked at Silver Bullet for a couple of months.
Okay.
I'm track standing, which is where you're like balanced on your bike, but you're not moving.
All right. Yeah.
And I'm right on the curb waiting for the light to change because I'm going to the park to have my lunch, right?
Yeah.
And this is the old days where they had that big freeway that ran along the water, right? It's all been torn down now.
Okay.
And some guy, like, I don't know, drug dealer, I'm guessing, because seemed pretty messed up. He was driving a Porsche, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it's like full of McDonald's wrappers and his girlfriend and like 3 kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he comes flying off the freeway and he hits me. Right, and I'm like right on the curb, you know what I mean? Just like waiting for because there's people, it's lunchtime, there's people on the sidewalk. I don't want to be riding my bike on the sidewalk.
Right.
And he hits me, and like, I never wore a helmet. And this is the one time I'm wearing a helmet. And I just like ducked down behind the helmet.
Yeah.
And my head hit like right at the top corner of the windshield. And I just like totaled the car.
Shit.
Like,
so how do you get fired for that?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going the wrong way down a one-way street. Right? Yeah, I'm basically sitting there waiting for the light to turn so I can cross in the crosswalk.
Okay.
And, and so, dude, this guy wanted to freaking kill me.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there like, whoa. But I was like, okay, my neck was a little sore, but I had my helmet on, destroyed the car.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroyed the car. And so I got fired.
Yeah.
And then I got a job at Executive Courier Network, which was a big roll-up by these Australian guys, Maine Nicholas, right? And this ended up turning into the company I like to call Dynamex.
Big company.
Yeah. And
massive.
Yeah, so I got a job there, and the CEO, every day, like it seemed like me and him always came in and out at the same time. Okay. And so his name was Joe Kent. And every morning I'm like, hey, Joe. Every night I'm like, have a good night, Joe. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I was working there and I got doored. You know what getting doored is?
Don't know that.
So you're riding your bike and there's all the parked cars. And
car.
Someone opens the car door
and
you just go right into it. So I did that. I messed up my shoulder. Yeah. And they were self-insured for workers' comp, which, by the way, never self-insure for workers' comp if you have a bike messenger company.
Big no. Most people don't have bikers nowadays because of the workers' comp issue. I'm sure we'll get into that in a second. I've had a driver. It's probably our last driver we had was, I think, Dort. he got doored, and that was pretty much the end of our biker business.
Yeah.
But go ahead. So you're
Okay, so I get doored. And so my arm's in a sling. My shoulder's all messed up.
yeah.
And so, I'm there, and Joe comes in, and he's like, I'm pushing a broom with one hand in the warehouse. And he's like, Andrew, what happened to you? And I'm like, I got doored. And he's like, so why are you pushing a broom? I'm like, modified duty. And he's like, do you like doing that? And I'm like, hey, man, it's better than sitting on the couch at home, right? So he's like, huh, okay. And so he goes his way, I go mine. Mm-hmm. And 5 minutes later, I hear over the PA, Andrew, please report to HR. So I'm like, So going to HR. And the guy's like kind of annoyed. And he's like, well, you're not going to be sweeping up anymore. You're now going to be Keith, the mechanic's assistant. So that's like, great. So I get to sit on a stool now and just hand him he's like, screwdriver, right?
Yeah.
3/8 wrench, I'm just sitting there handing him tools, nothing he couldn't do himself. I'm his helper.
Yeah.
And me and him were just kind of laughing about the whole ridiculousness of the whole thing. So the next day, I'm sitting there handing him wrenches, and Joe Kent comes in. Joe says, hey, Andrew, how's it going? And I'm like, great, man. Thanks for the promotion. He's like, so how do you like doing this? I'm like, well, beats sweeping the floor.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And, 5 minutes later, Andrew, please report to HR. So I go to HR. This time the guy's kind of pissed.
That's 2 times in HR now. After getting fired from
this is like my third day working in the shop.
You're on a roll, right?
And so he's like, okay, go report to the customer service area, and we're gonna get you answering phones. So I go in there. It was cool. Met my girlfriend. So I was in there with all the girls answering the phones, and they taught me how to answer the phones, and I booked in orders, and then, I did that for about a week or two, and then Joe's like, hey, how you liking this? I'm like, oh yeah, this is much better, and he's like, okay, and then, I again get called into HR, and now I moved into troubleshooting. And so then I started troubleshooting for bikes, and I troubleshooted for vehicles, and then
actually fixing them, troubleshooting?
No, troubleshooting
orders.
Call the customer because there's no one there to sign for the package. Is it okay to slip? This is 47 boxes instead of an envelope. Is that okay? Right? Are we getting the right stuff?
Dispatch support function.
Dispatch support. Yeah. So we call that troubleshooting.
Yep.
And so I did that, and then I helped, I did collections, I did payroll, he had me helping out in every single department.
Yeah.
And then they put me in dispatching bikes, and I turned out to be really good at it. So when my shoulder was okay, I just kept dispatching bikes.
Kept going, yeah.
And I would dispatch in the morning and the evening and ride my bike in the middle and do deliveries. So it was great, making a lot more money, got a good job. Right.
How valuable? We'll get to this, but we're talking about now. How valuable were the diversity of those experiences? You got a chance to see all the different aspects of a company.
Well, we're going to get to that in a moment. So I'm dispatching bikes. I'm probably dispatching bikes for 6-8 months or something, maybe. I guess I don't even remember. And I got put on the safety committee, and he'd be like, "Does anyone have any ideas?" And one of his bike messengers was like, dude, you got to get us a bowling team. You're in with management. Get them to sponsor a bowling team. And so we have the safety meeting, and he's like, so does anyone have any good ideas about how we can increase our safety culture here? Yeah. And I'm just sitting there, and no one says anything. And he's like, anyone? And I'm like, maybe if we had something that we could all do together and foster a sense of family, people would care more, and they'd be less likely to file a fraudulent workers' comp claim if there was something to make us all feel like we're one big family and we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
And he's like, see, people, this is why I got him in here. We need more people like Andrew.
So you go from being the guy got fired for an accident, doored, put into the warehouse, HR twice, moving up, and now you're the genius with the bowling team.
And now I'm the genius, only one. And so he says, Andrew, so how are we going to foster this sense of family?
So I'll run it back to it. So you're in the safety meeting, and you present the idea for the bowling team, and it's received.
Well, no. First he said, I said we need to have family so people won't file fraudulent claims.
Got it.
So he says, so Andrew, how are we going to do this? I'm like, I don't know. It's got to be something that'll bring us all. What about like some kind of team? What about like a team sport, like a bowling team or something?
Yeah.
So I walked out of the meeting with like authorization to start a bowling team, and they paid for us to go bowling every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
It was cool. We had a bowling team.
That's awesome. And all the guys used to work with the bikers just loved you at that point because you're the guy.
Well, they're the ones that told me to see if you can get us a bowling team.
Yeah. But you're in now. You're in management now. You're advocating on behalf of the drivers.
And I'm a bike dispatcher, so I'm telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So after work every day, we used to always sit out back in the loading dock, like drinking beers, smoking a little weed, playing hacky sack.
Yeah.
And the conversation was always the same. It was like, man, this happened to me today. It was so lame. I got to wear this stupid uniform shirt that's so uncomfortable. And then it's made out of polyester, so I get all sweaty and stinky. And then someone calls up and complains that I'm the stinky messenger. Yeah. And, if I could just wear a cotton T-shirt, I wouldn't be stinky, but they make me wear this stupid polyester shirt, right? And so it always came down to like, yeah, man, if we had our own company, we'd wear cotton beefy tees, with a cool design on this lame stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so that was like every day, right? Yeah. Something happens, and we talk about what happened in our day and how we would do it better. So they were getting rid of the bike. So the company's doing like almost $1 million a month, right?
Okay.
And
this company's doing biking. They have
vehicles.
Ground,
They got everything. Right? It's a full service courier company. Air courier.
Okay.
Right. Real estate routes. Back then, there were still banking routes. Right. So they got the routed stuff. They got no trucking, but pretty much everything. Air courier, legal services. Right. Yep. The whole thing. And so they had to. The Australians, Maine Nicholas, who we used to call mainly Dickless, told them that they had to get over $1 million a month or something was going to happen. Right? There was going to be a change.
Big change.
Right?
Yep.
So under a lot of pressure, and they just couldn't hit it. You know what I mean? And I know exactly, like, I remember being stuck at like $14,998 like a fucking week or whatever. Was it a week? Yeah, it was like a week. And I just was like, oh man, we're gonna get to 15, and we just never did.
Never got there.
It just drove me crazy.
So they shut down the.
So Joe says, so they shut down the bikes. All right, because again, don't ever self-insure bike messengers. There was a party and some guy fell through a skylight. He didn't even work at the company. Yeah. And there was some kind of big lawsuit, and he got $1 million, and they had to pay out of pocket. And so that and the not being able to get over $1 million a month made them fire all the bikes. And they weren't even going to tell us. They're just going to, Friday's your last day.
Yeah.
Right? But Peter, the guy that ran the legal department, like, he was on the safety committee too. Okay. So he let it slip. He told us that we were all going to get shit canned on Friday. So when I went out back to drink with the guys, everyone knew, right? And we're out there. I'm like, oh man, this sucks. I don't want to work anywhere else. And I was like, dude, all we do is sit up here and talk about how we would run our own company. Yeah. How we could do it better. And we can do it better than these guys, right? And I'm like, are we men or are we mice? Let's just do this. Yeah. Right? I'm like, who's in? Right? And so back then, we were the King brothers. We were kind of like a gang, Okay. And like, we all had King names. Like, I'm Sting King. There's like Nosmo King, Lee King, Bar King, Partay King. Right? So we're like, we're going to start our own company. So I'm like, who's in? So like all the Kings are in, right? So there's like 6 of us total. And I go home. So I go home, I start making rate sheets. Okay. We know it's going to be called King Courier at this point, right? Because we're the Kings. So.
You got a name, Got a handful of drivers ready to go.
But no, a handful of bike messengers. We didn't have any drivers.
Bike messengers. I'm sorry, a handful of bike messengers.
Nosmo King, who was sort of the original, like, king of us, right? And he, the next day, there's this guy, Chris Shang, who's a really good artist. And Nosmo goes up to him and says, hey, can you design a logo for us? And he goes, yeah, sure. And Nosmo goes, what are you going to charge me? He goes, a beer. And Nosmo was like, I'll be right back. So he goes over to the liquor store across the street and comes back. And when he comes back, Chris hands him our original logo. Wow. And drawn on a cocktail napkin, of course, right?
Yeah.
I took that thing home, put it in the Xerox machine, and I made business cards for everybody out of like construction paper and a paper cutter, right?
Yeah.
And I made rate sheets. And what we did, the funniest thing was, so Partaking lived at 2nd and Folsom, which is right downtown.
Okay.
And really, really, ideal spot for a courier company, right? And so we're like, he's out. It was like, this is beginning of January, 1992. Mm-hmm. And he was in Michigan visiting his family. And we're like, he's in, he's in, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're all, yeah. So we'll just use his house. And so his roommate, Bar King, was one of them. Was one of us too. And he's like, yeah, he won't mind. So we set up in their living room.
Set up shop in his house.
We gave out his.
He doesn't know.
We gave out his home phone number as the company phone number, and I put it on all the business cards, on all like the sales collateral. Right. I made rate sheets and little brochures and everything. Right. Yeah. And everyone's so this last I had this done by like Wednesday. Okay. So we had like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to sell.
Yeah.
And so like every delivery we went into, we're like, hey man, no more bikes on Monday. But if you want the same messengers giving you the same great service, just call this number instead, right?
So the first job for the Kings were to go out and be the marketing.
While we were still working for executive.
Okay.
So, we had like 3 days, you know what I mean? Because they thought Monday morning, they're just going to stop offering bike deliveries for $3.50 and turn them all into vehicle deliveries for $10, and no one's gonna notice.
Okay, so they weren't just, they were cutting the biker division, but the plan was to transition customers over to a ground
to
solution.
A more expensive delivery, right?
Yeah.
That'll get us over $1 million a month.
I got it. Okay. You guys had other ideas.
We had other ideas, and it was great. So. The other thing was I told you I worked in the order taking, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, we're good friends. And they all knew that we were starting this up. And when people called in on Monday and they were like, yeah, I want a bike messenger delivery. Like, oh, we don't have bikes anymore. But if you want the same messengers with the same great service, call King Courier.
Call my man's house. Hope he answers the phone. Did he have a wife and kids and anything?
No. They're just two guys, two roommates living there. But it was pretty funny because he came home like, a week. He came home the following week, right? Yeah. And he comes in from the airport or whatever, and there's like a bike messenger company in his living room. He's like, what the hell are you doing in my house?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, hold on, I got to get the phone, King. You're here.
All right, so take me through so you're essentially have a soft launch. You're putting cars out there.
We did not have a soft. We did 30 deliveries our first day. We opened at 7 a.m. and we got our first call at 7:15, and the phone rang all day.
And so, what role are you playing? So you're
I'm the dispatcher.
So you're the sole owner, or
no? We're
did you guys even have the time? So they even form legal documents at this point, or just guys just like back and
forth? At this point, we had nothing. We had like 3 days to put the whole thing together. Okay. Right?
So nothing's even legally formed.
We're a partnership though. We all agreed we were going to be a part, and we sort of had like a cocktail napkin version of how it was going to go. Right?
Okay.
So
30 deliveries first day.
Yeah, and just went up from there.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was cool. So there's guys that like start companies and they get a warehouse and a bunch of trucks and 13 people to answer the phones and 5 dispatchers, and then they don't get any orders for like 3 months.
Yeah.
I've heard that story from so many people, right? And we just like bootstrapped it off our final paycheck. We literally used our last paychecks to buy pagers.
About page, yeah. So you put some infrastructure in place just to be able to communicate. All right,
Yeah,
but so I didn't.
Because there weren't any cell phones back then.
Yeah, this is 90.
Yeah,
Yeah,
92.
or just maybe in the cars, maybe something like that. No, it would even.
No, they had them in the cars, but they were like
cars, yeah,
they
the
were.
huge,
It was like
yeah, like when you
huge.
almost two hands,
It had
right?
like a car battery.
Yeah, the long
you know?
antenna.
Yeah.
I remember those. All right, okay. So what happens with the company? Because I got to imagine these guys have a plan to convert these customers over, and their phone's not ringing because the house phone's ringing. Do you have any legal issues? Do they come back? Is there any retribution? Do they come back and say, "Oh, you"?
Yeah,
or,
that comes a little bit. That comes a little bit later. So
Okay.
we did really good at first, and actually, like a month in, they were like, "Hey, you want to do deliveries for us?" And we're like, "Sure." They were our customer. They were kind of our biggest customer for a little while.
Yeah.
Because they realized that people didn't want to. You know, or no, you know what it was? They were charging $10 for the deliveries, but they the cars couldn't get around downtown fast enough. So they hired us to do all the easy jobs on the bikes. So we're doing that, and they're only paying us, $350, and instead of paying a driver $5. So it's
Yeah.
good for them. They're making out. We're making out, right? And so we did that for a while, and then they kind of faded away, and we just kept growing and we kept growing, and then we got kicked out of that place. We moved it into the back hallway of my house, and we were there for a little while. But my girlfriend was being all pissy about it, so I had to get out of there. So we actually finally we're doing some deliveries, so we get an office, and we moved into this place we called the Messenger Mall at 158th Street that was shared with Flash, Lickety Split, and us, and then Black Dog moved in.
Okay.
So
A little hub of logistics companies.
yeah, and it was cool because if you couldn't cover a job, you just like, hey, can someone do
Go to
this?
your neighbor.
Right?
Yeah. That's very smart. So okay, so how many at that time? Like you start off with, let me see, a few months in. How many bike messengers are
So
there?
it's still just
Small group,
It's still
handful
just
of
the
guys.
6 of us.
Okay, got it.
And then actually we started bringing in extra people,
Okay.
right? And so at this point, I'm doing all the dispatching, I'm doing all the billing, I'm doing all the customer service, right? And I even made my own software to run this whole thing on, right? And so
You made it yourself. You developed it.
it was I used some I can't remember what it's called. It was some Fox something. It was we were running on Macintosh
Yeah.
because my girlfriend's sister worked at Apple, so I could get a free last year's computer every year, right? And we the little square 32K. I mean, that's what we started
That was
off
the original-
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we're doing good. We're getting busier. We're hiring more guys because we can't do all the jobs ourselves. And then, so we got, one of our guys got a car.
Okay.
And so now we have vehicles. And so executive came back, and this lady, she was a salesperson for executive, and she came back and wanted us to do some work. And she was kind of a bitch. I didn't really like her. And she was like, yeah, I want you guys to do this work for us. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And she's like, because, I know you guys don't have any vehicles, so you can't ever take any vehicle work from us. I'm like, yeah, I might someday have vehicles and I might take your work. And somehow she talked to someone and found out we did a vehicle delivery for them. And so this is back when the PUC, California PUC regulated the courier industry.
What's PUC acronym?
Public Utilities Commission.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So just like water or gas or
Got it.
electricity. Or
Okay.
whatever, right? And so back then you had to be employees, right? And you had to have all, workers' comp and everything, but you didn't need a CPUC license unless you had vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I knew she found out we had a vehicle, right? We had one vehicle.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, I have a bad feeling about this. Someone take the board. I'm going to go over and see what it takes to get this, license, right? And so I did it. We did all the stuff we had to do, workers' comp and all that stuff, and then I got the permit, and I come back on my bike, and I'm pulling in. There's this lady getting out of this car across the street with like a painted Dayglow orange chain, and like a bunch of. I'm like, wow, that's a weird thing to see. I'm like, okay. And then I go in the office. I'm like, ooh, look at our new thing, right? Yeah. And I'm like trying to figure out what to do with it. Like, do I got to post this somewhere, or should I get a picture frame or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And and the lady comes in, and she's like, "Is this King Courier?" And I go, "Yeah." And she's all, "Well, I'm here to shut you down." And I'm like, "Really? Why?" And she's like, "Because you don't have a PUC operating authority." I go, "You mean one of these?" I mean, like, the ink was not
Just got
even
on.
dry. And she's like, "Yep, I guess we're good." And she
Wow.
and I was like, "So what's the chain for?" She's like, "Oh, to lock the door so you can't come in."
Wow.
I was like, "Whoa."
So okay, give me timeline. So this is how many months into King? Are you at a year yet?
Yeah, we're probably about a year.
About a year in?
Yeah, because we're already in our second office.
Okay. So a year in, you're getting traction, second office, adding more drivers, and you almost
So
get shut
we were
down
in this upstairs
totally.
tiny office, right? That
Yeah.
was slightly bigger than this studio that we're in right now, and with 3 messenger companies in there. And then we moved downstairs, which was like big,
Okay.
right? And
Got
so that was cool. So we're in there, and then we get our authority, and we're good. We got workers' comp and all that, liability insurance. So I mean, when we started off, we were totally just underground.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so now we're all legit, and then I'm moving. So my friend Bill, who worked at Executive,
Okay.
he was in the air courier department at Executive, and I'd been roommates with him in the past, and I was breaking up with my girlfriend, so I had to move out of that place.
You've had a lot of girlfriends.
I used to be a lot better looking.
We got to talk about how you met your wife too.
Yeah. So I'm moving. Bill's got a house. He's on Potrero Hill, nice place, 3-bedroom, and he's like, yeah, one of my roommates is moving out. I got this room, and it's like super. It was like the crappiest room. Because bedrooms have to have a window. It's like a law, and it had a window into like a hallway in the basement. So it was cool because you could sleep all day, right? Because there's never any sunlight in there.
Blacklight, yeah, blackout.
And so that was cool, but it was like $200 a month.
Okay.
And so I'm like, hell yeah, I'm taking that room.
Yeah.
And when I was moving in, Chris, my partner, was moving out, and that's how we met. And he had worked with Bill at Perfect Courier. Right. And so, this is like incestuous messenger world in San Francisco right here. So, he's moving in. I'm helping him get his stuff out. And
You guys didn't know each other at all. You just.
no, and he was
pure
moving. He was
happenstance.
moving down to Mountain View because he just started Care for Courier down there.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Care for Courier, right?
There you go.
So,
there you go.
and so, he's like, "Oh, you got a bike messenger? You want to sell your company?" I'm like, "No, you want to sell yours?"
Yeah.
And
Shocking. Yeah.
yeah,
I got your room already.
yeah, I got your room. I'll take your company too.
Right. You got a girlfriend too? Just lost mine.
So let's see. So I move in there. I met him, and then he contacts me a little while later, like, "Hey, I got this customer. It needs bike messengers in San Francisco. You want to do the work for us?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And then we started talking and stuff. Then, at that point, I had been dumping all my paychecks. So it's like we're a partnership, right? And so some of the guys are taking draws, and I was just reinvesting all my money.
Some of the original King partners.
Yeah, so they were using their money to live off, and I was eating rice and beans.
Yeah. Yeah.
and because I was just like, I need a phone, I need a better computer, right? So I would just not take money so that I could get the stuff that I need. I need pens, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, so like my investment in the company was growing, and theirs was kind of shriveling away as they were living high on the hog, right?
Yep.
Because we're all making money now. And so Chris is like, look, you maybe, you want me to, I'll buy out your part. Me and my partner will buy out your partners, right? And then we'll all have this, put the two companies together. We'll do the merger. So me and, remember I told you, King, the guy whose house so he was working hard too. Me and him were like doing most of the work, and the other guys were just like spending all the money.
Yeah.
And so me and him, so then it was me and Partey and Chris and his partner Bob, right? And so now we're all together, and it's all one company. And then so we put the two companies together in like '94, and then '95 we completed the merger, bought all the other guys out, and so now it's just the four of us. And the first thing I do is Chris is like, go down to Mountain View, get rid of Bob. And so I go down there because the guy was just a mess. Right?
This is his partner.
His partner. So I go down there and help him. I go down there and just clean up the mess.
Okay.
Because it was just a mess down there.
So let me paint this picture. So you've got 6 partners, started King, you're year plus 2 years into it. You happenstance, you meet Chris, who is the owner of Careful Courier, as a partner, Bob. You guys have to merge companies together, bought your partners out. And your first order of business in this new partnership is go fire the guy that
not really. First, it started off just fixing the office down there because it was just a disaster, right?
Okay.
And
now,
so
they cut you off. They were doing bike messenger. They had
doing vehicle messengers.
vehicles. Okay.
And the thing is, everyone was really good. Bob was a really bad manager.
Okay.
So he was just not a good manager. And the way he would go in and tell the dispatchers they were doing everything wrong, and then mess everything up, and then leave and be like, here, here, I fixed everything, I'm out of here. But he just made it worse, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone's quitting and stuff. It was hard to keep guys, and it was just a disaster. So I went down there, like, you can't come in this room, right? I'm like, go get a strawberry shake or whatever it is. And so he did that. Finally, he got all pissy, and he's like, well, buy me out. And we're like, no problem. So we got rid of him, and then in like '99, Partey was just like, I'm done with this. I'm out. And
So you kind of exit the business. Did you have to buy him out?
We bought him out.
Bought him out.
And then
So now it's you and Chris.
So now it's just me and Chris.
Okay.
And so now, and it's been like that, ever since.
Got it. So about 2000, it becomes you and Chris. 99, 2000.
Pretty much like '99. Yeah, I guess. I don't know if Rich left before or after I got married. But yeah, I got married in '99, so I think it was before.
Okay, so we've talked about a few girlfriends. Now we got the last one who is the wife. I know we've talked about this before the podcast started, but I want to hear the story on camera.
All right, cool.
How do you meet your wife? And your wife's name is?
My wife's name is Mari.
Mari, okay.
And she was a bike messenger from Tokyo. She worked for a company called T-Serve. They're an awesome bike messenger company in Tokyo.
How do you meet a bike messenger from Tokyo?
All right. So, 1996 Cycle Messenger World Championships were held in San Francisco.
This is a thing. Cycle Messenger World
Happens
Championship.
every year in a different city around the world. It was like, I think it was London. No, it was Berlin was the first one because it was the year they tore down the wall. Okay. So they did Berlin the year, like 94 or three or four, I guess, was the first one. And then they did like London. They might have gone somewhere else, and then it was San Francisco in '96. So it might have been 93. I don't know when the wall came down, but it was I know Berlin and London came before, and then it was San Francisco. And there might have been another one in there that I can't remember. Okay. So I was like, I'm like a company, like the bike messengers do the whole thing themselves, right? And it's all organized by the community. And so being like a company owner now, I was just like, well, I'm like, if you guys need anything, just let me know, and otherwise I'm not going to get in your hair, right? Let you do your thing. And so I was like a corner worker,
Okay.
On Telegraph Hill, dangerous corner. They had me up there with a yellow flag. You know what I mean? In case there's a crash on the corner, people couldn't see.
They're racing.
They're racing, delivering packages. So you have to deliver packages and race at the same time, and whoever delivers the most packages wins.
I'm gonna have to YouTube this. I gotta see this.
Yeah, it's cool. and every one is a different format. The messengers in that city make up a race that's going to be good for that area. Wow. So ours was all on and around downtown and Telegraph Hill. Okay. So you had to, they used like the most brutal block of a hill.
Terrain,
it's like, the sidewalk is stairs.
About hills, San Francisco, where you're located.
Yeah.
How many times you guys haven't traversed those
hills? You don't really,
hills?
because mostly the hills are just like rich people live up on top of the hills. So unless you're going to some rich person's house, you pretty much don't really have to go over the hills too much.
Okay.
And if we don't run out of time, I have a very funny story about San Francisco hills when I first moved there.
Okay.
So I'm a corner worker, and I get a call like it's supposed to start at 8 a.m. and like at 7:45, I'm up on my corner. And they're like, over the radio, it's like, Andrew, come down to start finish line. So you're down to start finish line. I'm like, hey, what's up? And they just handed me a microphone. And they're like, here, you're the MC now, right? Because the girl that was supposed to do it, really nice. She was like, she planned everything and figured everything out. And they're like, you did all the hard work. You can be the MC. And she's like, hi. Welcome to the 1996, right? And then they hand it to me. And I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 1996 Cycle Messenger World Championships, right? That was it, you know.
Yeah,
and
he stole that job.
Yeah, so my wife is racing, and so I'd be like, you know, at the start finish line, I'm like, and here comes that cute girl from Japan with the orange hair again, right? And so, you know, she didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Japanese. I gave her a foot massage after her race. I got to be friends with her boss, who made me promise to come to Tokyo the following spring for the cherry blossoms. So this is Labor Day, and so Tuesday, I went down to Japantown. There's a bulletin board, you know, and I pulled a phone number for someone who's like, Japanese lessons, boom. So I started taking Japanese lessons. Yeah. And I did it until I went in the spring. Wow. And like, I went to Japan, and I just like, no plan. I nothing, right? I had like 25 grand in cash in my pocket. I was just like, and I bought a ticket like, my return ticket was like a month later, and I'm just like, I'm go big or go home, baby.
You're a long way away from that first. When you going to San Francisco driving, where do you go? San Fran, or you go to L.A. and
yeah,
25 grand. Okay, you got 25 grand in your pocket in Tokyo, speaking Japanese. Kind of.
And that's the best thing. Honestly,
her to marry you.
So I speak Japanese better now than I did then, and it's harder. So if you obviously don't know how to speak Japanese, but you're trying, you get so much credit. Okay? So if you ever plan on going to Japan, just learn some Japanese and just suck at it, and everyone just cuts you a break.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And then as soon as you can like sort of half-ass it and you know what you're doing a little bit, then everyone's just like, really like, your Japanese should be better.
Got it. All right, so let's get into the business. So, today, so King Courier, Care for Courier, is it one name now? You go by King Courier?
The reason I'm wearing the Care for Courier shirt today is I was just down there shutting down the Care for Courier office. Okay. Because we just shut it down because it's down in Silicon Valley, and there's not as much work down there as used to be. And you know, with when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, they took down another bank that was a big customer of ours, and you know, like ripple effect, and so that really hurt us, and that was the majority of the work we were doing.
Okay, so part of this podcast is I want our audience to learn from the failures, right? Part of the last to first is how you've gone from last to first. So you're referencing, sounds like a situation you lost a pretty large customer. I still want to go back to the business and economics and the model and like how you even run the operation today, what you do, how you do it. But share that story. I mean, this is sounds like recently happened. You lost a large customer, and
Yeah, so they're
How do you
so they're a
navigate
bank that
that?
was like very big on customer service,
Yeah.
and that was their whole thing. Like they used to have ads where people would give testimonials about their great customer service, and oh, I left my passport on the banker's desk when I was picking up Deutschmarks on my way to Germany, and they brought me my passports in line for security at the airport. And I'm like, they didn't do that. I did that.
Yeah.
And it's
all
like,
me.
come on, give me a little credit,
yeah,
right?
right.
And so these guys like huge into customer service. They got bought by another bank, so they failed and got bought by another bank, like Fire Sale, that is not interested in customer service at all, and just killed it. I think it was like a catch and kill scheme.
Yeah.
Right?
So you providing bike messenger and delivery?
Yeah, just delivering stuff for the bank, like
bank.
bringing stuff to people's houses. Like you got fancy customers, sure, we'll come pick up your deposit. Or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. What does that do to the organization? So I know, I've had the same experience. I've lost a major account, and everything has to change, right?
Rough, man. It
Yeah.
was hard. Yeah, and it finally all just went away on what was it, like Memorial Day? It's like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 3 weeks. Almost 4 weeks
So
ago.
this is something you're living through at this moment.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, it tapered off over the year, but like they finally ripped the Band-Aid off on Memorial Day. So now we're like,
Yeah. Yeah. You're fighting through it.
yeah, we lost half our business.
Oh. So when you lose half your business, and you obviously been very successful in this business, we talked about your 2-time president CDA, you're on the CLDA board, people know you. Oftentimes, I don't think people talk about setbacks and how you have to find an internal fortitude. And look, and you're the guy. I mean, you and Chris are the guys that are running the show. So there's no one else to look at to solve this problem. How are you actually dealing with it? Like, what are you doing? Obviously, if there's a business side of it, you got to make decisions to make.
So here's the funniest thing is, and I think that this is a good takeaway for your viewers, your listeners, right? Is Chris, my partner Chris, and I are complete opposites. We don't agree on anything, okay? But because of that, it makes our company stronger, right? Like, do not ever go into business with your best friend, because you guys are going to think alike, and you're going to agree with each other's bad ideas,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'll say, hey, I got a great idea. He's like, yeah, that's stupid, and he's like, oh, hey, I got a great idea. I'm like, don't even go there, man. That's ridiculous, right? And so we're just always kind of, checking each other
you kinda play off each other.
all the time. And because of that, I think that is really the source of our resiliency. Like, we're already, bouncing back, looking for new stuff. We're just like finding, and that's the weird thing too. We always seem to be like finding new verticals all the time, right? And it's just like weird stuff that you never think of, right? We launched Google Shopping Express in the Bay Area. We launched Amazon Prime Now, right? We did some Amazon logistics, and so it's just like you just got to be there and ready to go at the right time. So what the hardest part now is, what we always look at is like, how much work do we have? How many guys can we have, right? And so what we're struggling with now is we really want to like cut one more guy to be more efficient, but if we cut any more guys, we're going to shrink our coverage footprint, right? And so that's where you're like, and it's like, well, we got this other company that's right about to come on, and these guys are coming on, and so you're like, let's keep the guys in this area because they're going to have a branch up there that's going to need servicing, and so you got to.
So I can appreciate it, because what you're referring to is the give and make. These decisions are case by case, and there's a lot of different moving parts to it. And I can appreciate what you're saying, because what I found in my experience, that was probably one of the lowest moments when I owned my business, was 40% of our revenue gone. And you gotta fight back. And so ultimately we did the same exact thing. We ended up replacing majority of that business over maybe 6-7 customers, new customers that were more sticky, and it opened us up to other opportunities. And had we not lost that business, we're never even looking at those things.
So entrepreneurs out in the audience, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Nuggets. It's a nugget.
That's a nugget right there.
Nugget.
Yeah, you want to have diversity in your portfolio. And Chris and I talk about it all the time. Like, oh man, it keeps me up at night that like we got 50% of our business lying on one customer.
Yeah.
But it was funny because they started off small.
And it grew
and it just grew and grew. Like when we started with them, they had one branch and they just took off and got bigger and bigger.
This is very common in this industry. I think a lot of owners I talked to, even after we sold our company, the company that we acquired us, similar story. And I think it's the gift and the curse, right? You do a good job, they reward you more business, so you start growing organically, and slowly but surely you start seeing they are representing 20, 30, 40, 50% of your business. You can't turn it off. All right, so only thing you can try to do is try to outgrow it, outpace it.
Yeah.
But they're occupying so much of your resources.
And then the other thing is too, you get fat and lazy. You know what I'm saying?
And you get happy.
You're like, hey,
you get like your partners that's on the taking the money out and
yeah,
not
but
being
you know
frugal.
but the thing is, it's just like I was saying, like you're a bike messenger. When you get to $100, when you know you've made your $100 today, you kind of slow down a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, I made my nut for today. I'm good.
Human nature.
And and I think everyone does it. The drivers do it. Drivers do that all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I made enough money. I think I'm going home. My back hurts. I'm going home.
Yep. No, you're right, and it's something that I think we all struggle with and have to overcome because it's human nature.
It is, when you get comfortable.
Yeah.
So don't get there. There's another nugget. Don't get comfortable.
Don't. Yeah.
Always keep pushing yourself.
Comfort leads complacency.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. All right, so I want to talk about the let's get into a couple things. Driver model, right? So you've been the president of the California Delivery Association, one of the largest state associations in the country, 2 times. I think you must have smoked a little too much of that weed back with the boys.
Hey, you know what? What I like to say is, in California, we're really good at recycling.
I love it. California is the best place to. Hey, if you're on the take, you're consuming. Hey, why not? But what I want to get into was, California represents one of the states where it's most litigious states in the country.
Oh yeah.
Most people in this industry, still the dominant driver model is the independent contractor 1099 model. You've had the experience of operating both W-2 and 1099. You've also been a biker in those models. What model you operate today? Give me some of the history of that.
So we're all employee today. We started off as, like I said, we were a partnership, but then when we started bringing on new people, we brought them on as employees. Mm-hmm. So we were W-2, and then in 1999, maybe 2000, somewhere around then, our workers' comp rate went from like 12% to 52% overnight on renewal. Wow. You only get 30 days to renew, right? So, yeah. So we basically have 30 days, and this is back when NICA was big, Pat McGrath, all that fun times.
Tommy McGrath.
McGrath.
We were NICA customers too at one point.
There you go. Yeah. So Tommy McGrath. We'll indemnify you. Oh yeah, that didn't work out too well. Anyways, so we were in a tough spot, right? And that's the other thing, you either you're a dinosaur or you're a bird, right? You know what I mean? You either you go extinct or you sprout feathers and start flying, right? Yeah. Those are your choices. So, we evolved from a employee model to an independent contractor model, and that didn't pan out too well for us. And so, we got our NICA provided lawyer died in the middle of our thing, and didn't file some paperwork, so we lost. And
So you had a misclassification judgment against you? You had an issue with this?
we had a misclassification judgment against us because the lawyer that provided by Nike got disbarred and then died promptly thereafter, and didn't file some piece of paper that I was like calling him like, dude, we need to file this thing today.
Yeah.
He didn't file it, and because he'd just been disbarred, which we didn't find out till later. So then he shortly thereafter he died, and I had nothing to do with it. So
Uncareful.
So we got this judgment, and so we knew we had to do something.
Yeah.
Again,
what year is this? Give me the time frame.
2004.
Okay.
Right. And because they give you 3 years. They want to max out. They got a 3-year window look back, right? So they want to make sure they get the maximum amount of money they can get.
Yeah.
And then they come after you. And so they came after us like 2004. We get this judgment, and so we got to do something. And otherwise, we're willfully in violation or whatever, right? And so the penalties triple and stuff. So it's bad. Wow. So we restructured to 2 separate companies. We split the company into 2 companies: Transportation Marketing Services and Bay Area Dispatch and Solution Systems, which is also known by the acronym BADASS. And that was mine. I was BADASS. I was like the dispatch. It was a dispatch brokerage, basically.
Okay.
And I chose BADASS because I wanted a name that would stick in the craw and be difficult to speak for anyone who worked for the state of California. And it was.
And you've done it.
Great.
Yeah.
I loved every minute. It was that was a lot of fun. Anyways, it was great. It worked. I thought we had a very legal model. And I even think today, now in the post AB5 Prop 22 kind of era, that it would probably fly. The reason they said it didn't fly was because we had humans doing the dispatching, not an algorithm. They're like, well, I was like, well, what about like Postmates? And they're like, well, they use an algorithm. They don't have dispatchers.
So because the TNCs, the transportation network companies, these are your Ubers, Lyfts, your ride shares, food delivery guys, because they utilize tech to organize the dispatch, they can comply. They are protected by
that's what they say now. But basically,
Prop 22.
Okay. Littler Mendelsohn, right? Like very large employer law firm, right?
Right.
So our lawyer from Littler was hilarious. He used to be like, every time I'm sitting in a courtroom with the EDD lawyers, all they can talk about is you. And like he's like, there's a dartboard with your face on it in every EDD office in the state. Like we used to just joke about this stuff. He's like, and I met the director of the EDD, and he knew who I was.
Why? What, just because of?
Because they hate. I don't know. They didn't like us. You
represented.
We flouted it or whatever we did. Yeah. We did whatever we did to get their attention and to, bunch their panties.
This is I know. So at the time you were CDA. Around this time, do you think you had a target?
I wasn't CDA president yet, so I was still on the board. I was on the board. So around this time, 2004, Chris, there was something going on at the convention, and Chris was like, I don't want to go to the convention. You like to go, be social. You go to this thing. And I was like, I don't want to go to this thing. They're the enemy. They tried to shut me down back in the day, right? Because they're the ones that called the PUC on us, right? And so I go to this thing, and Joe Kent was there, and everyone thought I was going to, like, hit him or something. And, like, he comes in the room. I'm sitting there, and I stand up, and I turn towards him, and everyone, like, jumps in between us, like, holding me back. And I'm like, Joe, good to see you, man. I just want to thank you for everything you did for me. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But everyone thought I was going to punch him.
Joe Kent is
the guy who I said hi, Joe, to every day at Executive Courier Network. The guy that
full circle moment.
The guy that brought me in, and brought me into the office and got me doing all the things and made me a dispatcher.
Awesome. Wow.
And then laid me off so I could start my own company.
Wow. It's funny how life takes you on
Right?
these turns and journeys. Right?
Right? It was pretty cool.
So, all right,
So then I got on the, so like someone, then, I go to the convention, the next year, and some guy's like, I'm so disappointed in you that you didn't nominate, say you want to be on the board. I'm like, well, no one ever told me they wanted me on the board. And so then the next year, I got nominated, and I got on the board, and, and I've been on pretty much the board ever since. I took a little break after being president for the first time. I took a couple months off.
Yeah.
I was going to take a year off, but I only ended up being like 6 months or something.
Yeah. All right, so let's frame up for me some of the successes you've had. You've talked a lot about the obstacles of failures. One thing we didn't get into now, but I know that when I asked you off camera, kind of your early childhood, like what you aspire to be. You mentioned that you dropped out of high school, right?
I was
ninth
getting in a lot of fights, so
Yeah.
I dropped out of high school in 9th grade, and then went sailing around the South Pacific on like a 98-foot brigantine. I was like 15 years old, and the next youngest person on the boat was 30. So I did a lot of growing up on that trip, right?
Yeah.
And then I tried going back to school at this sort of hippie school up in Vermont where you live on a farm and stuff, and that was like, all right, and did that for a little while, and dropped out of there. And then finally, I was like, I had to wait till my class graduated. Once my class had graduated, I took my GED. And, it's like 2 weeks worth of tests or whatever, right?
Yeah.
10 different tests or something. And all told, I got 2 questions wrong on the whole thing.
So what does it mean to you to go from that experience, dropping out of high school, to you're today running a successful multi-million-dollar delivery business?
It's just,
Does it resonate? Does it?
I sometimes, when I was like president of the CDA, I was like, I can't believe, like, for me, the big thing, like, we were real poor growing up, and like the fact that I never thought I'd buy a house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, I bought a house in the Bay Area. Jeez, right? To me, that's probably my biggest achievement.
Yeah.
I got my wife. I got 2 great kids. They're both going to college. Right?
Awesome.
I never,
Never dreamed.
Oh, I tried. I actually, I applied. I got into mass art. No, not mass art. I can't remember. Some other art school, because my roommate's girlfriend was in industrial design. They had to do the thing where you use popsicle sticks and rubber bands and put an egg in the middle and throw it off the top of a building and not break the egg. Yeah. I was doing all her homework for this class, right? She'd be over there trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, do this. Here's your solution. And I'm like, I got to take this class. So I signed up for the class. And on the last day, an ad dropped. The teacher's like, Mr. Brady, can I see you after class? I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, hey, today's the last day ad drop. He's like, why are you taking this course? I'm like, well, I dropped out of high school, and I thought maybe my parents always wanted me to go to college and stuff, so I was trying to see if maybe I'm more mature and ready to go to college. He goes, nah, you're not. He goes, look, I got a much better idea. Today's the last day of ad drop. You can drop this class, get your money back, and come work for me. You can run my design company for me while I'm here teaching these morons how to do this stuff. Wow. And so I went and worked for this guy for like $18 an hour, in the early 80s, which was great. Yeah.
And good money today.
And I built models for lawyers to use in court to demonstrate how machines were injuring people.
Wow.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. All right, so we're going to get close to the end of our time here, but I really want to get your take on something that I think the audience will find very valuable. You look at your career, what you've done. You've obviously had a lot of success. You've been a national leader representing national boards, a state board, and people look at you as a thought leader in the space. And so for someone that's had this journey, that's navigated all these different things that we've talked about, and we know the fine amount industry is blowing and going, right? There's a lot of innovation happening. It's just tremendous growth opportunities in the space. Where do you see the industry going? What innovations do you see coming ahead that whether it's you or other owners or people trying to get into the space should be looking to?
Yeah, so like when I started off, like lawyers or real estate people knew about couriers, but most people didn't know about couriers. We're sort of like ninjas. We just, your package is there and then it's gone and it shows up on someone else's desk, and no one really ever thought about it. And people who didn't use couriers every day didn't know. Now, ever since COVID, everyone kind of knows about delivery because they were getting stuff delivered to their houses. And so I think it's great that a big sort of opportunity for us is this increased visibility. So more people know about us. And so I think you're going to see like more consumer deliveries, right? Like Amazon and, you know, you got your DoorDash and all that kind of stuff, right? So what I see is there's a big sort of environmental impact thing going on, and just like cities are getting big, and that they're doing congestion pricing like they have in London, and they tried to roll it out in Manhattan, but then they decided not to because it's an election year and you don't want everyone to hate you on an election year. So what I have this vision that, you know, you have a semi with a 53-foot trailer who pulls up on the outside edge of the congestion pricing zone, and then you have you know, like a 3-wheels, like a tricycle, like an e-bike tricycle, with a quick change cargo box on the back that you can, you know, load from the truck onto the, you know, you load them onto the trikes, then they go into the congestion zone without having to pay any money because they're not a motor vehicle, and they go in and drop off their packages. Maybe they're going to then refill it and bring it back, like in a e-commerce thing. They could be bringing back returns for like Amazon, or if it's FedEx kind of model, they're going to go deliver their packages and pick up everyone's packages coming out and take them back to the truck, right? And the guy on the truck's just, you know, taking boxes off and handing them, and you scan the barcode on the side of the box, and it gets loaded into your device, and you go collect all your PODs, and then you get your pickups, and you go.
So like a mini mobile cross dock.
Like a mobile cross dock. It's like a spoken hub, except, you know, the hubs are mobile.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like a mobile hub, or a mobile cross dock, exactly, on a smaller scale. So it's a sort of, you know, you're not unloading a semi into you know, Sprinter vans. You're unloading it all the way down to almost a bicycle.
In the congestion pricing, they're charging vehicles to enter into a certain zone.
Yeah, so usually it's like the most congested part of the city. They have a line, and when they have those like readers like they use for like Fast Track or whatever,
and
takes a picture of your license plate, then send you a bill, you know. And I think when it started off, it would be like, you know, charge you like $2 or $3 every time you cross the line and, you know, going in. But then I think now they're more on like a $15 a day kind of thing, is what I heard the plan was for Manhattan.
So that cost would be borne by the delivery company, who would inevitably pass along to a customer, who is then going to say, no bueno, I don't want to keep doing this. And so that may trigger more opportunities for, because look, the reality is, you're still one of the rare breeds that still use bike messengers. Right?
Someone's got to be dumb enough to do it. I think most people are smarter than me.
We always thought I was called the craziest person till it all pans through. But so you think this may trigger more opportunities for companies like in your particular service offerings? People
want a green solution, right?
Yeah.
People like that. It makes them feel good, you know. And so I think that this, as long as you can get, you know, the volume into the place where you have your concentration of deliveries, right? Because it's all about your, you know, stop density. Is what I always call it, right? That's where you make your money in this business, is with a high stop density. And you can get, so when the places are such high stop density, like you see the Amazon guy, right? And he like parks his van, and he walks to like 5 different houses, gets back in the van, drives a half block, and walks to the 5 houses down at that end of the block. That is almost too much stop density, right? That's where you do better with a bike.
Yeah, because you got so much cost going into that with that driver.
Well, a bike, you just like pull up in front of the building and lock it to the parking meter and go right in. Like even if there was you know, like a guy can get in his car to downtown, he's going to drive around the block twice looking for a spot. He's going to find a spot, it's a block away, and he's got to walk all the way over there to get to it. Whereas the bike messenger just rides up the wrong way down the one-way street, locks his bike to the parking meter, right outside the door of the building and goes right out. There's nothing faster than that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's been there's different schools of thoughts on sustainability and e-bikes and are you saving money, spending more money? I do think that we've seen in some cases where the government's starting to incentivize through tax credits. Companies that are proving that they are operating in the most sustainable, environmentally friendly way. So I think that will continue to trigger people to look for these alternative solutions.
I would be happy to see more tax credits.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up on that note. But Andrew, I want to thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Thanks for having Andrew on our podcast. To all our guests out there, if you're looking for courier service in the San Francisco market, you got the man here.
King Courier.
King Courier. All right. 3 Kings. Last the First podcast. Andrew Brady, Jason Burns. We're out. Peace. Thank you.